Okay, welcome back. We've had a few technical issues, I think, with YouTube itself rather than our incompetent. It seems to be down for certain parts of the country. But hopefully this is working again now, and we can get on with the important business, which is to state that Tom, our beloved panel member, is basically looking for friends to hang out with on the weekend of Quig Frampton. If anyone would like to be his friend or hang out with him, go for a drink. He'll pay for the drinks. You could hang out in his hotel room if you want, mini bar, etc., etc. He can cover it all. Might even be able to help you out with your ticket if you haven't got enough money. But yeah, please send the pod account a message if you would like to be Tom's friend.
He said he's also willing to be your best man at your wedding. Yeah, just anything.
Yeah, he's a good listener, he says. And
he'll co-sign on a mortgage.
For only £5, you can adopt a Tom next Christmas.
Tom's also apparently taking a creative aerosol, and he'll go out on Canal Street if anyone who fancies it.
Right. Okay. That's the Quig Frampton preview wrapped up then. Good.
I'm still getting YouTube issues, by the way, so if anyone else is actually listening, well, you ain't hearing this, so I don't know why I'm talking to you.
Do we know if the last one recorded, Alex?
I'll check.
Anyway, well, let's carry on, because we've got an issue that is to discuss next time, which is very close to my heart. On Wednesday, beloved Mexican Hall of Fame fighter Antonio Margarito announced his comeback against Jorge Paez Jr., which isn't a bad opponent, I don't think, for your first fight in 4 years. And I just wanted to know what everyone's thoughts were about Tony Margarito coming back to dominate light middleweight and welterweight once again.
My first thought was when I saw that fight poster is that his eyes had been photoshopped because it was both looking in the same direction.
Yeah, I think you're right. I actually think they have been edited. I think genuinely that you're right.
And secondly, he must be looking for a payday because he's not going to achieve anything. He didn't achieve anything with two eyes. He's going to achieve less with AI.
Oh.
So,
yeah, apparently that did record. So
oh, sweet.
All of us talking shite at the end. And
any listeners, you have an absolute fucking treat. Part 1 was stellar.
but anyway, he's not going to achieve anything. He didn't with two eyes. He beat Cotto. That's his only good win with one eye.
He was pound for pound and consensus the best welterweight in the world for about 5 years.
Oh, come off it.
One of the most loaded divisions in the sport at the time.
Oh, well, loaded gloves as well.
No.
Touche.
Right. I'm now.
State your case.
Yeah, I'm going to put forward a defence of Antonio Margarito now, based on my admiration for the man and love of his career, and also just I get very annoyed by how hypocritical fans are in terms of the types of cheating that they choose to criticise and the types of cheating they choose to ignore. And I know Alex agrees with me on that. We'll get onto it a bit later. But I just want to clear up a few things. First of all, anyone who uses the phrase plaster of Paris, like Steve Bunce did in an article in October, is a moron, because there was actually a study done where they put plaster of Paris into a fighter's gloves. And as soon as he punched, it cracked, and it ended up, basically they said, yeah, if you fought with that in your gloves for 12 rounds or whatever, it would shred the skin on your knuckles. It would cut them to bits, and you'd break every bone in each of your hands. So the idea that someone would have a solid block in their gloves is mental. It's a complete nonsense. It's like a fucking comic book or something. That's the first thing. Second of all is the fact that what was found on the wrap, that's all it was, a wrap, a hardened wrap, hardened through sweat and water and other natural substances that you would get on your wraps while in the ring, were calcium and sulfur, traces of calcium and sulfur, which are found in plaster of Paris, but are also found in any number of creams, in any number of like balms or anything that you might put on your hands when preparing for a fight or training or whatever. So plaster of Paris, that's off the list. That's nonsense. Does anyone want to contend with that? No? Okay. Point 2. The idea that he did it for several fights, or did it for any fight, in fact. All that happened was Margarito was caught trying to cheat in a fight. They then took the gloves, the illegal pads out of his gloves. He fought without illegal pads, and got beaten.
Got
So
the
he's
shit
never-
beat out of him.
Yeah, got the shit beat out of him by a guy who had the performance of his career, the last 10 years of his career, and would always have been a bad style matchup for Margarito anyway. Also coming off the worst camp in his career. Margarito came into camp famously at about 180 pounds, had to lose 30, 35 pounds or whatever it was in 8 weeks. Whereas for the Cotto fights, for the previous fights, he was known as being in superb condition, always. I remember for the Cintron rematch, he rehydrated 6 pounds. Rehydrating 6 pounds when you're a welterweight at 147, that just shows you how good condition he was. You know, he's not a Rios blowing up to 170 once he's had a drink of water. The third point is that, sorry, it's a bit of a diatribe, I'm almost done, but the third point is that Margarito definitely knew what was in his gloves. And you see people like Kellerman and Lampley constantly refer to it as an assumed truth, that he definitely knew what was going on. Every single trainer, every single notable trainer, I'll give you the list now: Dan Birmingham, Pat Burns, Freddie Roach, Manuel Stewart, Nazim Richardson, Virgil Hunter, they all came out after that fight and said if they wanted to, they could slip an object like that into a fighter's wraps without them noticing. Freddie Roach said, and I'm going to quote him, where is it? Sorry. If I did something like that, which I wouldn't, of course, I think I could do it without my fighter knowing. If my trainer, Eddie Futch, had ever done something like that, I don't think I would have known about it. He could have kept it a secret from me. So that is all of them saying, yeah, if we wanted to, we could hide it from the fighter. But apparently HBO, Jim Lampley, Max Kellerman, who've never had a fight, know much better and know that if he did it, Margarito would definitely have known what was going on. He'd definitely have known what was in his gloves. Also, the last point is the notion that people say, well, he was crap after he got busted in the Mosley fight, therefore he must have been cheating all along. He came off like a 2-year ban and had been fighting since the age of 15 and been in a lot of hard fights. I think he just got old. He came back, he fought Pacquiao, prime Pacquiao, and got the shit beaten out of him. But he also hurt Pacquiao in the fight. And it's not as if, Manny absolutely danced around it for 12 rounds. He quite badly hurt Pacquiao at times in that fight. And the idea that he sort of ceased to be relevant from the moment he got his hand busted is just nonsense, because it's not like he was in his prime then. He was kind of, I think he was 30, 31. He was coming, been in a very, very long, tough career. He had 5 or 6 losses on his record. He'd been at championship level at welterweight. He'd had like 10 or 11 championship fights at welterweight. So he'd been in with the best guys for a long time. And I think it was just wear and tear on his body. And I think
the style of fight.
Sorry, yeah, go on. Yeah.
I mean, he I'm not siding either way on this. From what I've read myself and what you've said, it's very. I think people are very presumptuous about what Margarito has done and saying that he's cheated for his life when there's absolutely zero evidence for that. Even there's very minuscule evidence of any sort of wrongdoing in the Mosley fight itself. People always seem to transfer that to the Cotto fight, and again, no evidence whatsoever in that. Absolutely no evidence.
What really makes me laugh is the common one of saying, "Oh, well, look at Cotto's face at the end of the fight." Look at Cotto's face at the end of the Pacquiao fight. It looked exactly the same. Completely.
Pacquiao messed him up a lot worse.
That means did Pacquiao have loaded gloves? Of course he didn't. Nonsense.
Thing is, though, you've already acknowledged that there was something in his gloves. Like, you're not saying it was plaster of Paris. You're not saying that he's done it multiple times, but there was something in his gloves that absolutely shouldn't have been there.
Yeah,
and the line for me was Nazim Richardson, right? Nazim Richardson, very respected trainer. He said afterwards, when the lump fell out of the glove and he picked up and looked at it, he said he thought he'd blown the whole fight. That was his thought. He thought, I've just cost my guy, so a couple $1 million and cost himself the money, because his line was, I thought they were going to arrest him. Now,
Paul, sorry, just to interrupt you. I actually watched that interview recently. I thought he meant he'd blown the whole fight because he was so angry he was going to I don't know, hit someone or call the whole thing off or whatever. I must have misheard him, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's what the line afterwards was. He thought that someone was going to arrest him, was going to arrest Margarito. That's what he thought. He thought, I've blown, an hour before the main event, I've sold out Staples Center, and I've blown the whole fight. And that was his reaction. Now, that wasn't the reaction of someone who was trying to, lie or falsify what he'd seen or what he'd found. And Margarito was banned. His trainer was obviously banned. I don't know if it was for life or for a very extended period of time. There's no evidence to say Margarito cheated before. The reason I don't want to see Margarito fight again is nothing to do with the loaded gloves incident. It's to do with the fact that, I mean, I went to school with a kid who lost an eye with a stone being chucked at it, and he's got better eyesight than Margarito does. He in that Pacquiao fight, he was just getting battered on. He was getting beaten up, and his eye was swelling. The Cotto rematch, exactly the same. He shouldn't be fighting because physically, as you say, he's been fighting since he was 15, 16 years old. He's had numerous very tough fights. He's back because he needs the money, as is the case with pretty much 99% of all fighters that return, and I just don't really want to see it.
I think that's a fair position to take, but I just want to be very clear before we go on that he was caught trying to cheat. He wasn't. It wasn't like Louis Resto, where the guy, after beating the other guy up, he was caught with illegally tampered gloves. Margarito never went into the ring. With the evidence we've got, you cannot say that he went into the ring with loaded gloves.
Mate,
he had them in his.
If you booked a hotel room to take some girl there and you didn't actually sleep with her, your missus would still call it cheating, just because he didn't actually go through with it.
Yeah,
he was
he
trying to cheat.
Yeah.
The
He
thing
tried
I
to
don't get
that
though
one
is,
fight, and I completely acknowledge that. Sorry, go on, Paul.
it's like you don't take away all of Roy Jones Jr.'s wins before the PED incident. So I think it's harsh to then just carry it on to say he might have been cheating in that one, he might have been cheating in that one. I think you just got to take it on face value. If you've lost a fight, I mean, if you've been cheating in one fight, then you don't count that fight if you've won it. But I don't think you can just do it retrospectively. A lot of them you've cheated your whole career just because he could have had a load of gloves in every single fight, but he obviously didn't.
We can't rule it out and say 100%. All we can say is it's not like his raps weren't getting inspected. Do you know what I mean? They were inspected by the other corner. They were signed off by the commission in every single fight up to that point. It's not like he was preventing the other corner from going in the room to see what was going on. And the idea that I find it really far-fetched that every other trainer who inspected, felt, watched him wrap his hands wouldn't have noticed anything. And I know Doug Fisher, we mentioned this before the pod actually in a chat separate, but Doug Fisher feels very strongly that it was desperation from the Margarito camp following the worst training camp of his career. Knowing that it was a very high stakes fight with Mosley, he'd finally broken through to the top level. Remember, again, this was a guy who'd spent so long knocking on the door without truly getting that defining win, and then finally gone from just being a belt holder in the division who people weren't interested in fighting to being the unified champion at 147, having that name on his record after Cotto, and then suddenly people were like, okay, this guy's right up there with the best pound for pound. And then maybe a week out from the, I don't know, or a few days out from the Mosley fight, he thinks, fucking hell, I'm not going to win this. I'm in no condition at all. And obviously Mosley, who would have known about that I think Nazim Richardson said he told him before the fight, what better motivation could you have in the entire world to go out there and just absolutely put it on the opponent than knowing that he's just tried to, load his gloves. So I think it was kind of a perfect storm, and that's why Mosley looked. That is one of the also Margarito got knocked out. People laugh about it because he always had this slight reputation as having an iron chin. I maintain that the punches he took, the clean, leaping power punches he took in that Mosley fight, from the first round on, it was immediate. They would have ended the career of most fighters. I genuinely think he took so many punches. It was, he only went down late in the 9th round, but he was taking these Mayorga sort of haymakers, the ones he used to take when he'd stick his chin out.
Mosley, is a fucking hard puncher as well. So
yeah,
as you say, I mean, Carl brought up the point about the PEDs as well. You mentioned Roy Jones. No one discounts his wins prior to being found out by that. Mosley fucking admitted to taking performance-enhancing drugs, but somehow he's being upheld as this sort of champion because he beat up Margarito, who was trying to cheat with his gloves in that fight. Is that ridiculous?
Do you know what it is? I think it's a mentality thing. You can't see ped use. You can't really put your finger on it. We hear it's happened. People fail tests when someone has got something physical in their hands to say he's tried to do this. He's put reps in this.
It sounds more barbaric, doesn't it? It sounds like bricks in
Yeah,
his
it's like the crudest, most kind of
Exactly.
like visceral way of cheating, isn't it?
In-
Yeah.
It's something that you
essence,
imagine you'd get in the 50s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like he's got a fucking fucking horseshoe in his gloves or something stupid like that, or like fucking knuckle dusters on. That's what people are imagining in their heads.
Yeah, or taking the padding out of the glove like Resto did. And
Yeah,
you see
that's what they're
guys
imagining.
after that was, to me, the guy, who was it, Billy Collins or whatever, the Irish guy who got beat up then. His face and Cotto's face, they didn't look the same to me. And I know, there's a million reasons why that might have been. But
It's not just Cotto's face, was it? It's because Cotto was never beat before and he took an absolute pummeling.
yeah, but he
But
came
then
very
he's
close.
got-
He came very close to losing quite a few times before that as well.
And he's gone on since to take a beating in a few fights as well. So I think that's kind of out the window as well.
I think what's really telling is that I watched the fight against it. It's one of my favourite fights ever, and it's about a minute before Cotto takes a knee for the first time. Kellerman says this is the first time in his career when he's faced a guy, he's hit him with every punch in the book, and he's just kept coming. He's just kept coming and kept coming. And Margarito was, he was grinning the entire time. And I think he broke him mentally as much as it being a case of, having extra hard raps or whatever it is. But I don't know if anyone else has got any thoughts on it. I think Alex hit on a good point as well with the hypocrisy, especially when you get guys like Trinidad who had the controversy with the raps, where people literally just completely happy to sweep it under the carpet, not research it any further. Every opponent who complains about Trinidad having unusually hard punching power, they're dismissed as being like bitter losers. Yet with Margarito, when Cintron complains, no one dismisses him as a bitter loser. They say, oh, he's probably got a point. He probably did cheat. And you just think it's the double standards that really get me.
You've just got to think, though, in sport, for however long it's gone on, people always want to get an edge, especially in, like, physical sports. I remember people telling me about, like, rugby scrums back in, like, even school level. People would have, like, Vaseline down their fucking tops and rub it in the eyes in the scrum. Like, people cheat, and I don't think you can just completely write off how good they were or how talented they were because they're
really
cheating.
funny you say that, Cal. There's a really, really good interview. I think it was with... it might be with someone... it was with, like, a contender from the 80s who had sparred with Duran, but not... No, it was Mickey Rourke. That was it. This is going to sound really weird, but this is an interview with Mickey Rourke. And he was talking about, do you remember he famously went into prison to spar with Carlos Monzon in the 90s? When Rourke was like fancying himself as a bit of a fighter. And apparently Monzon just absolutely cleaned this clock. And like they had to call it off. But and this was Monzon who'd been in prison for 10 years and hadn't fought in a long time. But he said he had a sparring with Roberto Duran when he was going pro. He was trained by Freddie Roach, funnily enough. And he was sparring with Roberto Duran when Duran was up at middleweight, and in his 40s. And Duran used to do this thing, apparently, when if they were against the ropes in a clinch, when the referee called for them to break it, Duran, I can't really sort of explain it, but he'd tap him, apparently, under the solar plexus. You kind of tap them with the palm of your glove. And apparently, if you do it right, it completely takes the wind out of the other person. And it doesn't look like a punch or anything. And Duran would do it like every single time. Rourke said he felt like someone had sort of banged his bottom rib, and little things like that, which is illegal technically, I guess. But
little things like that you can kind of get away with. It's the same in football, isn't it? When you give away a good yellow card, the commentators always say it's still cheating. You're still purposely, like, if you go for the ball and you miss it, that's kind of fair enough. But these guys that just pull the shirt, to stop a breakaway, that's cheating, but you can kind of get away with it in the sense that
even when they appeal for a throw-in, knowing they've kicked it out,
because it's cheating.
It's all cheating. Yeah, you're right.
Well, you get like bending the rules, and then you get blatant cheating. That you like tapping someone after the bell isn't as bad as going in with loaded gloves, so to speak.
No, but a lot of the time it depends who's fighting and who's the commentator, because it's hypocrisy. Like Vladimir Klitschko cheats, but Floyd Mayweather old-mans him and tactically schools him. It's like they're doing the same thing. They're both cheating. They're hitting with the elbows. They're holding. They're clinching. But where do you draw the line? Obviously, putting shit in your gloves is cheating, but
it's a more emotive way of cheating, isn't it? I mean, the thing that really bugged me about it was there was a fight game in like November, and it was the preview for the Cotto Canelo fight. Kellerman kept referring to the Cotto Margarito first fight as being. He kept saying, "Well, I mean, we can all admit now that it was an unfair playing field, or an unlevel playing field, or whatever." And they all just nodded. And you just think that fight's not a no contest. Do you know what I mean? That fight is a win for Margarito. If like Paul said, if they had any evidence at all he would have taken Margarito to court, and that fight would be a no contest.
Well, they used the thing that the wraps in the Mosley fight would have yellow tint to them, didn't they? And then there's a photo knocking around where Margarita's wraps in the Cotto fight also have this strange yellow tint to them. So they must also have been loaded.
But equally, Margarito spent 5 minutes with his gloves off, shaking hands with everyone in the arena, including Cotto and all his corner after that fight. No one, and you saw the Billy Collins resto thing, where as soon as he went over to the corner, the guy touches his glove and immediately is like, okay, and you see resto like panic and try and get away. And he's like, right, someone come and have a look at this. This isn't right. And Margarito was there. There's a bit where him and Cotto were standing next to each other, like hugging and sort of shaking hands for about 5 minutes. And you think, if it's that, if he had these sort of deadly weapons in his gloves, you think someone would have noticed. I mean, either they're incompetent or, maybe people are overreacting a bit. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, sorry, that's my little rant over. I just get the hypocrisy pisses me off.
Just got one question though. What do you think will happen in his comeback night? He'll probably win the first fight, and then what's he angling for, Mosley or Cotto?
I think he'll win. Paez is decent but not great. I think Margarito might win a close decision, and probably look very, very, very slow.
I think he's got to look good at it to get anywhere near he probably could get a Mosley fight looking shy, but to get a Cotto.
No, Arum wants him back in America. Arum's like, if he looks good, we'll try and bring him back 100%. Because he's a name, isn't he? He'll be, I think, light middle, 54, yeah. To be honest, I wouldn't put it past them if he looks half decent to stick him in with Canelo.
Liam Smith at Anfield.
Margarito retired to duck Liam Smith. That was the whole point.
Do you think he could get a Nevada state license though, with his eye being as trashed as it is?
Well, he got the New York one, didn't he? And his eye was fucked then, and that was against a much better level of, it's an absolute joke. Someone will license him, 100%. Someone will.
They'll take it to Alaska or something, won't they? There'll be some crazy.
Get a Maltese one, he'll be fine.
Where was Tyson Lewis? In Memphis or something, wasn't it? Something mental, like the only one, the Mississippi Commission sanctioned Tyson to fight or something ridiculous. Like they'll just do something like that. He'll end up in like Oregon or somewhere where the commission's just like one guy in a kind of desk.
Like Paul said, it's not going to end well. And if he does win this and then steps up, he could get seriously hurt.
He could, but I don't know.
What would you do if Golovkin fought him, Shep?
I'd be so upset, honestly. I'd be really, really upset. It would make me genuinely sad if I saw that. But I still back the Tornado to grind him down and win late TKO. Prime for prime might have been an interesting fight, although Golovkin's quite a lot bigger. But be interesting to see if a guy like him could have taken punches from a big guy like that. You forget, he was never rocked against Pacquiao, despite face falling off, and I was sort of impressed in that fight by just how there was just absolutely no quitting him. He would have done 100 rounds with his eye like that, no problem.
I reckon it would just be very similar to the Mosley fight, just this constant absolute fucking punishment. I mean, he'd take as much as he could until obviously it was too much.
Yeah, I think a referee stoppage it would probably be, or a Golovkin would get stopped by the ref on his feet.
Well, Margarito was lucky the Pacquiao he was facing isn't the killer from a few years prior, and it was the more sort of godly Pacquiao who just didn't want to hurt anyone. Because if he wanted to, he could have put a serious beat down on him.
Well, he did.
But he was stopping, wasn't he? He was hitting him twice, stopping
him in the last round and looking at the ref and saying, "Aren't you going to stop it? Like, what do you want me to do? Kill the guy?" Like, literally, he was saying, like, "What do you want me to do?" It's quite interesting. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the Pacquiao movie, but
I have.
There's would you remember the Margarito bit in that when he says that was when I knew that I wasn't Superman?
Yeah.
Because he said, this guy was so much bigger than me, and he really hurt me a couple of times with body shots, and I knew then that I had to be a bit more careful, and I couldn't just sort of be a congressman and then show up on the night of the fight and beat anyone up. But I had to be much more careful about it.
Well, that was for a light middle title, wasn't it? And Pacquiao weighed in 144 pounds.
Yeah, and he won it, and then he vacated like a week later.
Yeah.
He didn't do a Floyd and sit on the belt and then never defend it at 154.
Well, they dragged Margarito down to 150 for that as well, didn't they?
Yeah, because he's a pro, Margarito. He'd make any weight. Absolute pro. But do you remember Floyd when he fought Maidana? That was at 147, but it was for the 154 title. Even though, do you remember that they somehow wrangled it so Floyd defended both? and didn't have to do a mandatory. And I just remember thinking Pacquiao did the decent thing, and he knew straight away, right, I'm not a light middleweight. If I get put in with a guy like Kirkland, I'm going to get my arse handed to me. So I'm going to go back. I'll just drop back down and vacate, which I wish more people would do, to be honest. Be nice if Canelo did that. Anyway, guys, I thought we could do, unless anyone's got anything else to say about how great Margarito is.
He's a bum.
Edit that out. Thought we could do, Paul, you might want to get involved in this as well, although you haven't had any time to prepare. We could do top 5 hype jobs in boxing.
Yeah, I like it.
Of all time or currently?
No, current. It's got to be current, because then we can see if we're proved right or wrong.
Should we all pick one each then?
Yeah, Cal, do you want to kick off, mate?
Yeah, I'll go. I'm going for Joseph Parker. And the reason being, I don't think it's him so much, but it's just his fans are nearly as bad as Anthony Joshua fans. They are fucking mental. Like, they're just saying, like, he's quicker and better than Tyson, more powerful. I'm just like, chill the fuck out. His best win's like Tupu's, another fucking Kiwi. Do you know what I mean? It's not exactly... He's fought worse people than Joshua, a lot worse, and yet people are putting him in their top 10 heavyweights already. It's like, he hasn't even beaten like a Kevin Johnson yet.
Yeah, he hasn't even beaten a gatekeeper yet, has he?
I've seen a few rumours that this Parker could be signing with Warren. I don't know how true that is. Or
I don't know, because he
definitely needs to leave New Zealand, doesn't he? Definitely, he's not going to get the fights over there.
No, but he's fighting his next fight in Tonga, and then after that, he's in going to America. So I can't see him signing with Warren, because I think one of the Yanks have got him under, like, tapping him up, to be honest. So I think he'll fight in America. Like, he might be good. He's one of them. Like, he does look good when he's fighting, but the hype for what he's done.
Why would he ever come to Britain or fucking America when he's got like the fucking Burger King road to the title bullshit that he's got in New Zealand?
He's not going to get the fights, though, is he?
I know, but they can put it on. They'll put it on pay-per-view in New Zealand anyway.
He's coming for Sergio Martinez's Burger King crown, I think.
I don't know. I think they could probably sell like a Parker against Lucas Brown for like massive money in New Zealand or Australia, because they're just crazy. Like, they've got so little in terms of talent.
Yeah, actually, if Boiled Egg beats fucking Chagayev as well, if he wins that regular belt, that's probably like a fucking...
I could see Parker going that route, but they've got to just fight like a Tony Thompson, someone like that, because until they do, people putting him in the top 10 should just jump off a fucking bridge.
Who would go? Maybe a guy like Malik Scott, who needs money, would go over there.
Yeah, but Malik Scott is just he's just got no fucking heart, has he?
That's what I mean, but maybe he'd actually go in New Zealand and take the fight. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of the contenders wouldn't want to go over to New Zealand for it. It just doesn't really make sense. But
yeah,
it's a real race between him and Joshua at the moment for fighting someone significant and someone important. I mean, they both had a couple of veterans on there. I mean, fucking Joshua's got Johnson, Kevin Kingpin on there.
Well, we can call Dillian White a significant win, I think.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that Dillian White in a few years will look like a really good win on Joshua's record.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I think
for that.
Like,
I think White will go on to be a good, solid Euro level fight.
People were saying Chisora against White. I don't think that's competitive. I think White would hammer him, to be honest. I just think Chisora in his prime would be a good fight, but
yeah, I mean, if White fucking splatters Chisora and then maybe like Helenius or something, then fair enough. People obviously got to rate that win for Joshua, but right now, again, he was a nobody novice.
Yeah, and he had a similar record to Parker. Like, he'd beaten worse people than gatekeepers. He'd just beaten, like, maybe no one even in the top 40 of the heavyweight division before he fought Joshua. So, yeah, at the minute, he got to still call Dillian White a scrub, but I think 2 years' time, that Joshua win will look pretty good.
Here's a good question. What's the best example of a win that didn't seem to mean much at the time, but ultimately came to be, you look back on it and go, fucking hell, wow, that was a really good win. I've thought of one, which is Sanchez beating Azuma Nelson when no one knew who Azuma Nelson was, and then Sanchez died like a year later, and Nelson was like 16-0 at the time or something. Sanchez beat him, like, convincing decision, and then Nelson went on to basically be the greatest African fighter ever and beat a hell of a lot of guys at sort of featherweight and lightweight and stuff. And then people would look back and say, bloody hell, Sanchez was good. Like, he dominated that guy. And I think Canelo and Floyd maybe to an extent. That Floyd win looks better and better like every year.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a good point. But I suppose with Floyd, because he's already seen as the man, like it's not going to affect his legacy that much. There's like Flomos will say that he's the best ever without the Canelo win. So
Yeah, but it's where it ranks on his ledger. I still think Corrales is his best win by a mile, but it's whether Canelo ends up being one of his sort of top 3 or 4 wins.
Yeah.
It's funny that it's funny. I still don't think Pacquiao's his best win. I think the version of Corrales is more dangerous.
So what happens? Say Canelo goes on and he actually beats Golovkin.
Yeah, then that win looks unbelievably good for Floyd. Like I thought there was an argument Floyd won every single round, genuinely.
Yeah, I think I gave Canelo 1 pity round because I was like, oh fucking hell.
Yeah, I think there's a good argument that it was between 10 rounds and a shutout to Floyd. And if Canelo goes on and actually, has a legitimate run as the middleweight champion, then that's a unbelievably good win.
Yeah, it's quite a hard one to think on the spot, that one though, Shep.
Yeah, no, it is. Sorry, I literally just came to me. We could do it again in the future if you want. I think going back to Parker, Cal. I think in the last year he really hasn't moved on in terms of the level of opposition, which is a bit of a worrying sign. When you see those guys who kind of get stuck at that level, and the guys who they're recycling are still gatekeeper at best, and they never move on and fight a proper contender, it sort of raises a few warning signs. I remember thinking the same thing about Gary Russell, why they were just keeping him in with that sort of C level, and they weren't progressing him at all. And then eventually, he fought Lomachenko, and he clearly wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, but that's like a fucking... That was a massive jump, weren't it, from what he was fighting to like the best amateur of all time.
Yeah, his fight before, honestly, he was fighting guys with like records that were pretty close to even. Like he was fighting guys with like 20 wins and 15 losses before that.
Well, they're doing the same with fucking Verdejo now as well. It's what's really fucking winded me up about him. He's fighting just constant trash. I understand he's had a couple of injuries the past year, but fuck me, how many fights has he had now? Nearly 20?
Yeah. Well, he's my pick for the hype job, and it's not that I don't think he's very talented and very good. Now, it's a shame Paul's dropped off the call, but Paul, I know, really likes Verdejo.
I really like him. I really rate him, but I'm just embarrassed by the matchmaking that's going on for him. He should have fought for a title by now.
Yeah, it's worryingly soft. I would have thought 18 months ago he was a shoe-in to be at title level by now. And I know injuries, but at the same time, if you've got a guy who keeps getting injured, then that means they're not that good. Do you know what I mean?
Or cycling.
Yeah. I don't know. He doesn't look like a roider to me. I don't know. But it's a bit like Bradley Saunders. He's world level, but his body won't obey him.
Well, he came up against the Lion of France, Renaud Garrido.
The king.
There was no stopping him, unfortunately.
The problem with the hand injuries though is like Verdejo's quite a big puncher, I know, against shit, but he looks like he got a bit of pop in him. And when they get hand injuries, they go to this like 12-round fucking style, don't they, where they just keep it all back and it's just like tip tap and all that because they don't want to hurt their hands again.
Yeah, because they can't risk it. Exactly.
Yeah, and if he turns into one of them, then my interest is gone already. Because
maybe this is just my mediocre understanding of biology, and I'm getting it completely wrong. But I always thought that when you break a bone or some sort and it reheals, the bones end up getting stronger. I've always heard that's some sort of pop biology that I've heard, and it's just completely false. But when you break your arm and it resets, suddenly the bones, the bonds are a lot stronger. Why isn't that the case in your hand? Why aren't your hands?
I always heard, Alex, that when it was joints, it got progressively weaker. So I know footballers with their knees, apparently they just get
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with the boxers as well, isn't it?
Maybe it'd be the joints in your fingers. I don't know.
It's knuckles they break, though, isn't it? I mean, it's again, I don't know the biology behind it, but it's a peculiar one because obviously it seems to be the case. The more it breaks, the more fucked you are. Look at Calzaghe; he was just a monstrous puncher when he started his career out. I mean, look how he beat up fucking Eubank, and then he couldn't punch for shit.
Turned into a slapper.
Exactly.
And even Paulie, like the most feather-fisted guy ever, he had like 5 knockouts in his first 6 fights. Like he had perfectly, at the start he had as much punching power as the average guy, and then it just went, and it was injury after injury after injury, and you have to think like maybe it's a question of technique, or it's a question of just having, I don't know, brittle bones in their hands or something, but
Yeah, I mean, they have done studies, haven't they, that I think behind, like, basically what forms the power of punches as well, and I think a lot of it is bone density and things like that. So maybe the people that can't punch as hard or hands break so much is simply because they just don't have as much bone density.
Was Vidal like a big amateur, or was he?
Did well.
Because
Well,
it does
He
seem
got
to be
beaten
like
beaten
it's,
by Lomachenko in the Olympics. I think
Yeah.
possibly 2012 actually.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
it does seem to be the amateur guys that fucking have fucked hands by the time they even turn pro. Just for
Well, apart from Rigo.
when they've been like overworked as amateurs. Like
Or it could be a technique thing where they're kind of throwing them with like a limper wrist or like an unclosed fist as amateurs because they know
Yeah.
they just tap the guy. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember Whittaker sometimes would throw these punches where you could see that his fist wasn't closed, and it was almost kind of just to sort of frustrate the other guy and take them out of their rhythm and all this stuff. And you see like a lot of Floyd's jabs where Floyd will hold his hand out almost in front of them just to kind of obstruct their line of sight, and then pot shot with the right hand or whatever. And you think it's because he probably thinks, right, I've probably got 100 good punches in my right hand and I've got to save them because any more than that my hand's gonna go. And you get these other guys like, I don't know, Paul Williams, who could punch the top of your head and your knee for an hour and never have any problems. It's very strange. In the same way, I guess no one knows quite where power comes from. Maybe we never know quite where sort of having weak hands and like.
It is technique, like you say, though. I do think that it's the proper binding of the wrists, and it's keeping your fingers spread and the knuckles spread so there's enough room for the impact when you punch, so that the bones can sort of move a bit rather than be completely constricted. Because the wraps, they're not supposed to completely constrict your hands, because when you do take an impact on the fist and on the knuckles, they just shatter. All the force goes through all the bones and they just start to shatter. If there's some sort of leeway,
suspension of your fingers, isn't it? Almost.
yeah, and they need a little bit of leeway to move and maneuver when you're obviously taking that huge impact with them. And I think maybe some people just don't move. Maybe there's not enough fluidity, and maybe the wraps are being done wrong. Maybe they're punching at awkward angles. They're not keeping a straight wrist. It's all these different things, and maybe it is just a case of poor biology.
Or I mean, outside chance, he could have just had a really, really unlucky year, and he might come back and really kick on in 2015. But I just worry when I see him going 12 rounds with guys who are getting easily knocked out elsewhere. Do you know what I mean? And you just think he looks good, but yeah, maybe there's a bit of Luke Campbell to him in the sense of like there's wasted energy from these amateur habits that he's picked up. I mean, Lomachenko's guilty of it as well to an extent. I always think he could go for the kill a bit more than he does. I think he's happy to just sort of take the piss out of the other guy and humiliate them sometimes. I remember that last fight against that Japanese Mexican guy. You just thought he could probably get rid of this guy whenever he wants, but he's happy to just he's got into that rhythm of like just pot shotting away and winning easily. It's weird.
The chat want to know when we're going to be making some Peter Sutcliffe jokes.
Oh, the chat are back, are they?
Yeah, it's working again now. We haven't got many viewers because I think people have sort of given up on us. But,
well, most of the panel's given up. We had 9 at one point.
Yeah, now we've got fucking just us 3. The fucking.
Well, yeah, and they've just left. No goodbye message.
Well, fucking Ainsley says all my internet shit. Brian's being a knobhead. Paul Webb's, I think, is still in work.
Is that why he was in the bog earlier?
Probably. Carp is probably checking his fucking forehead, and who else was like? Pops is probably busy selling his drugs.
Or stocking up for the February, yeah.
I hope you're all fucking listening, boys.
I think this has been a good second half. We've come back strong.
Yeah, we're starting to get some listeners as well, which is a fucking shock. They'll all fuck off as soon as they hear this, though.
No, when they hear us complaining about how we've not got any listeners, yeah.
Well, we're going to have to pick another. Have you picked one?
Yeah. Well, I said Verdejo, so it's Alex's turn.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few obvious ones, but I don't want to be too obvious. I mean, obviously, I've got obviously the Anthony Joshua one's a bit of a weird pick because I do think that he's overhyped. I don't think anyone can disagree that he's overhyped, but I do think he's also got the potential to back it up. So I'm going to try and go for something a little different. Maybe, I don't know. I think I'm still going with Deontay Wilder. I think that even though, I've never expected him to win a belt, I said very explicitly, a couple of years ago that this man's never going to win a world belt. He's a fucking joke. He's an awful fighter. Lo and behold, he actually won a belt, but, albeit in, some of the easiest circumstances a fighter can find himself, almost as easy as, Glasgow v Charles Martin, which is happening in a couple of days. But, credit to him. I thought Stavern would, smash his head in, but he managed to beat Stavern, regardless of how terrible he looked. And apart from that one win, I don't think he's ever done a lot, and people are still rating him as this guy who's going to be part of this resurgence of the heavyweight division that's coming up, because obviously the Vlad, the belts have been shattered, as it were. You've got Fury in the mix, you've got the Joshua and Parker coming through. Obviously you don't think Parker's really up to much. Obviously King Kong Ortiz, most of us are pretty high on him, I think. Povetkin, he's getting on a bit, but he's still got a few years in him left, I think.
I've got a theory about this, Alex, which is that, like Wilder is essentially, as they love to remind us, he's a champion, but equally he's a prospect and he's learning on the job, and they don't see contradiction at all. I think there's a chance we might see Wilder get lined up to fight the winner of Martin and Glasgow and to ditch the WBC, and then Povetkin to fight for the vacant belt.
Yeah,
I think there's a possibility that will happen because that way they can keep him as the champion, and they can say like, oh, he would have been unified, but it's political bollocks or whatever, and just have him duck a real challenge, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we come up with all these sort of conspiracy theories, to suppose that, shows that we really don't have a lot of faith in Wilder. I think that obviously he's got that equalizer, he's got that big power, but it's the heavyweights. Everyone's got that sort of power. Well, not his level of power, should I say, but everyone's got that eraser available to them.
But who's knocked out though? Like, who's the best person he's really?
Exactly.
I mean, anyone can put.
Well, the best guy he fought was Stavern, and he couldn't put him away, and that was.
And Stavern was a zombie that night. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, he's obviously got power because he touches guys, they fall over, guys that have previously shown a bit more durability. So fair enough to that, but I will say that I do think he's improving. Especially I've seen him in the last few fights. He's, his footwork's definitely improving. I think he's picking his punches a bit better. But as you said, he's the prospect who's the champion, and that is just not compatible for me.
Yeah.
You can't be both of those things at the same time. You can be a prospect and you can still be learning. Fair enough. Learn your craft, do it properly instead of fighting 30 fucking taxi drivers like you actually did. But work your way up. Instead, he's acting as if, and people are acting as if he is a top 3 heavyweight, and I just don't see it. I think that as soon as he fights Fury or Povetkin or Ortiz or even Vlad, they fucking take his head off easily, and that to me is not a mark of a world champion or anyone who's relevant in the top 10, because I think any of those guys fucking destroy him. And it usually you think someone who's in the top 10 would at least be competitive with the top 5 guys, but he's not. I don't think he is competitive in any sense apart from one lucky punch. And I don't like using that term lucky punch because there's really not such a thing as that, but if there's anyone who's got a lucky punch and a supreme punch that can win him a fight, it's Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, you can't see him sort of outboxing or like outthinking a guy like Povetkin or even a guy sort of like Pulev or a fringe contender.
Do you think it's interesting how that the PBC have got all these, like they've got Cunningham, they've got Tarver, they match them together, they've got like Areola, and yet they've managed to find people worse than him for him to defend against. Like,
it would have been Areola if he didn't look so fucking.
But if they're not willing,
to
put him in with Cunningham, which would have been easy, and Cunningham can have a payday, which is all good.
Would it have been? I don't know. I think Cunningham could have made him look quite bad.
That's what I mean. I'm saying like they've had to go down the list even further than that into the shit American heavyweight. Someone
like Tarver, I think Tarver would give him some problems. I picked Tarver to beat Cunningham when he came back, just because I thought Tarver's. As much of a sort of joke as he is in some ways,
he'd make him look shit.
He's a good fighter, and he's very, very like crafty and awkward, and I think he'd do a lot of things that would really confuse Wilder. Do you know what I mean?
Because I hadn't heard of Duhaupas before they.
No, I hadn't heard of him.
And that Molina, I think I'd heard of him, but I don't think I'd ever seen him.
Well, Molina got fucking
knocked out by, yeah.
Areola in a round.
Ariola, there you go, exactly.
In a round.
They were picking people that are maybe like 50th ranked in the world to fight for the heavyweight title. It's just
And
like
they're all getting brought in on short notice.
Spilker as well. I mean, he's a hard man. He's a notorious hard man.
Spilker's the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper. It's 100% the definition of a gatekeeper.
He's been in some cracking fights.
Yeah.
Cracking fights against journeymen and low-level guys in America. The Mike Marlowe fights, fucking really good
That's his
fights.
best win, isn't it? Mike Marlowe.
Yeah.
problem with him
And
is
he went
though,
down a couple of times in those fights.
Exactly. And he got dominated and worn down by Jennings, who just got absolutely smashed by another guy, you know, who's apparently a contender, and yet the champion is. And I've seen loads of Americans praising Spilker as a good, solid fight. I heard a guy say he'd be a test in any era. I just thought, what are you talking? The gatekeeper in this era, and it's fucking worst era in 100 years.
he's
It's a
basically
good test if you're in a fucking football match and he's on your team and he's
Yeah.
the top boy of your fucking hooligan battle
Exactly.
because he's fucking mental, but in a boxing ring he's shite.
That's how he got discovered, apparently. Fighting at a football game in Poland, genuinely. And like some guy saw him in the crowd, and he was just like, just clearing out
You
like
just
a whole
look-
section of the stadium.
You just look at him and you think, fucking hell, I don't want to start with him. I would not want to get in a fight with fucking Spilker.
Go up to Glasgow and teach grammar.
don't you think the sad thing about it all is though he's fighting for a title and that's a joke, but I'd pick him to be either of the other two guys who are fighting for another heavyweight title.
Yeah, it's a really funny one, that, isn't it? Because Martin can punch a bit, though. That's the only thing.
He went fucking 10 with Julian Love. Or
Did.
Julian Love. I'd fucking beat him up.
I'm going out on a limb. I'm going to pick Martin to beat Glasgow, and then I think Wilder will fight Martin. But
Glasgow was so shit against Cunningham, wasn't he?
and Glasgow's been on thin ice for so, like, getting some really dodgy decisions.
Well, it's on a Heyman show, isn't it? And obviously, if the conspiracy is that Heyman wants to fight for the IBF belt and blah 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 and dump the WBC, then obviously Martin would be the best choice because Martin is with Heyman.
That's my prediction for the year. Yeah, Martin wins, and then Wilder ditches
But
and fights Martin. That's my guess.
a lot going now. Continuing along with the politics, Anthony Joshua is going to be basically next in line. It'll be him and Takam
For the
probably
WBC, right?
for the IBF.
Yeah.
I think that's the route Harren's probably going to go down. I mean, he might change his mind if he sees, Wilder going for it himself. But
I think Glasgow, Joshua. That's very winnable for Joshua. I think.
yeah, but he's got to fight. He'll probably have to fight Takam first in like some sort of stupid eliminator. And Takam fight is certainly a test for
Cam, who is the sort of guy who Wilder should be fighting, a really solid contender.
Yeah.
That's exactly the sort of guy who will actually help him improve and help him teach him some lessons.
But it'll prepare him for the fucking Sasha fight because Povetkin had a few issues himself with Takam for a few
Yeah,
rounds.
exactly. That
I think he was either losing or was like or point up for Takam at the point of the stoppage. Where
I thought Takam beat Mike Perez.
yeah,
I'm going to add to the fuel the fire of the hype. I think Joshua would beat 3 out of the 4 guys fighting if he fought on Saturday. I think he'd beat him quite easily.
you think what Spilker?
Everyone except Wilder, and that's just a toss-up who hits him first.
Yeah, I agree. That's a flip a coin for that one.
Because he'd beat fucking Spilker's tiny.
Spilker's small, and I think I don't know if I can get odds on it, but there's a decent bet. It's a Spilker getting DQ'd at the weekend. I think that might be worth a bet because he gets very, very, very frustrated when he can't. And I remember against.
Did you see the video recently? It was the other day.
When he puts his head right into it.
Yeah, they were doing I don't know if it was like a press conference.
Oh yeah,
And he fucking went straight up to him, rammed him full on with his head and that, and Wilder sort of shat it quite a bit and backed off, but he's ready for it. Right?
I think Spilker will go all guns blazing first few rounds, and if he finds he can't get anything done, I think you could see him lose his rag and maybe sort of start putting the head in, maybe hitting on the brake and all this sort of.
If he goes guns blazing, he's getting chinned. That's it. He's out cold if he does that.
But he does throw wild hooks. Funny Spilker, he loves a wild hook. Like he's not like a fucking like sit back. He's quite thick as well. Like he fights right in the pocket, which Wilder will just take a step back and just.
Well, you think Wilder should be able to box him, but
I think getting right on that point, I do think getting right in on Wilder would probably be the way to beat him because he is this sort of fucking beanpole lanky cunt with big long arms and fucking long legs.
Yeah.
I think if you got on it, he's not really showing any sort of real inside game. I think if you got in on him and really tried to sort of fuck him up, I think he wouldn't like that. And
get him against the rope. Well, he's awful.
No. because I think Spilker will just be that mid-range, where he'll just take off a step back and he'll just be absolute tea.
Yeah.
And also, what is it? Spilker's, I can't remember if he's orthodox or regular, but I remember his front hand is really low.
He's a southpaw.
He fights like Froch, doesn't he, with his hand down by his knee? And I think he's open for the right hand of.
Oh, he's getting chinned. He's getting chinned.
The straight right will land more times than it will miss, and that's not a recipe for a win.
I think it'll last longer than, because since he's moved up in class, his power's been okay, but it hasn't been as good. I think he'll last like to the middle rounds, maybe 5-6.
I was going to say same thing. 5 or 6 rounds would be my bet, and I think that's because Wilder will be reasonably cautious at the beginning and maybe box a little bit, and then start to put it on him. And Spilker's got a decent chin, but like you said, he's much smaller, so he won't be able to stand up to it for the whole 12. Be hilarious if he won though.
I hope he goes though shit or bust, because a lot of these guys, they say they're just going to go for it, and then when it actually comes to it, they go fucking into their shell. I don't think he will, because he looks absolutely.
No, I don't think he's that sort of mentality. I think he probably knows. Look, he's not going to he's not going to get a shot for another belt. Like, he's not good enough to get a shot for a. If all things were fair, he's not good enough to get a shot at the title. So,
well, friend of the pod, Dave, the White Rhino, has dropped him in sparring before.
Spilker?
Yeah, he was putting on Twitter. He was putting on Twitter that if Spilker beats Wilder, then he's dropped a world heavyweight champion. So
yeah.
So I don't think
that doesn't surprise me. He's fucking glass, Spilker, but
hopefully he shows some heart.
I mean, I can see him getting fucking put in another world title fight simply because the heavyweight division is the Wild West now, and there's going to be so many roasters with pointless paper belts. They're going to say, right, who can we fight now? Who's got some credibility? They'll go, oh, Spilker, he's been in that world title fight. We'll get him in. We'll do a better job.
He's proven at world level. Hearn will get him over for AJ, won't he?
Exactly.
If you've got a good promoter, I think you're getting shots now at the heavyweight title.
Who is Spilker's promoter? I always forget. Is it DiBella? No. I can't remember if he's got an American one or if he's got like some Polish or European one. I can't remember, but I could see him. Maybe the loser fights Areola or that Brazil or one of those prospects on PBC, and then maybe the winner of that, they can get a fucking rematch of Wilder or some nonsense. But I just see him fighting 3 more guys this year who are the same level of Molina, of Duhaupas, of all these guys who are sort of top 20 at best, and he's just not going anywhere near the rest of the top 10. And do you remember when Fury beat Vlad, and then Wilder immediately came out and said sort of, well, it was only a matter of time, and you just think, well, you had a year to fight Vlad. You never had any interest in it at all. You could have unified for all the belts in the world. You had no interest, so don't give it the big un now. Like, it's ridiculous. He said, like, oh, Vlad was there for the taking and all this stuff, and it's like, well, why didn't you take it then, you idiot? Like, you had a mandate to fight him.
How mad would it have been if he did and won all the belts and someone as shit as Wilder had
so depressing, wouldn't it?
Everything, and he'd go down as like, I don't know how many fucking fighters have ever had all of the belts in the heavyweight division, but it can't be that many since
Lewis was the last one, wasn't he? I think.
Did he even have all of them?
I think at one stage he did, maybe before he lost to whoever it was, the first title.
I'm going to have a look, because I think Rackman was like 3 belts, I think.
Vlad would have had maybe for his brother, wouldn't he?
What's his face?
Didn't Chris Bird have one or something?
Oliver, I thought the McCall fight, maybe Lewis had all of them going into that. I might be wrong.
Yeah, he only had the WBC for that one.
Oh, did he? Okay. You might be going back to Holmes then. Long time.
Which is mad, isn't it? Like, you think, I don't think Wilder's as bad as maybe Alex thinks. I don't think he's all right, but like he's all-time great heavyweight, and hopefully he fights Povetkin, and then we don't hear so much about him.
Yeah, because like
he never had the WBO. Lennox never had the WBO. Again, I think it might have been Bird, but I have to check.
Okay.
Well, no, that was when Vlad had it, wasn't it?
So it might be back to you might be going back to the 80s then. Yes, it's a funny one. I mean, I do think Wilder's getting better slowly. Someone got their mic on, getting echo. I do think Wilder's improving, but at the same time, he needs to step up the competition, or he's just going to plateau at this level, and he'll never be ready to fight a true top contender. But yeah, has anyone got a preview for Glazkov Martin as well while we're at it?
Who cares? Fucking hell.
It's just a depressing fight, and hopefully it ends in a spectacular knockout.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
going Martin knockout.
You can
I
say
don't care who wins.
it's a good fight because it is a 50-50, but fucking hell, some 50-50s just aren't good.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be too nostalgic, but back in the day, this would have been the sort of level for a guy's 10th fight. Do you know what I mean? Like their first step up beyond regional level, and now this is for a world title. It's awful.
I think that's what leaves the bitter taste. It's not so much the fight, because the fight might be all right, but it's because how Fury got it snaffled off him before he'd even reached his caravan. It's a bit disgusting, really.
Did he ever take a piss on it like he said he was going to?
He put it in the toilet before he sent it back.
Brilliant. Right, have we got any more? I don't think there's many more fights this weekend, is there? We've got David Haye, obviously, but I don't really want to talk about that.
Just guess around.
Yeah,
a 3.
I put a bet on 3 or less. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Demori in 3.
And then Demori gets the Wilder shot. There you go.
And he beats Wilder, then he fights Fury, and then he fights Koff, and he wins all 4.
How much would Eddie Hearn pay to get him over for Joshua if he became the champ? He'd be over.
He's next in line regardless. I think that if Haye decides to go more than sort of 4, 5, 6 rounds, he's getting him over for AJ.
Yeah, but if Haye looks really good, no chance.
I actually watched a little bit of a clip of Demori just to see if I could get myself quarter excited for this fight, and I can't. So that's that.
Tragic. He's
shit. He plods forward slower than most nightclub bouncers, a lot slower, and he's just so muscly. It's it can't be helpful because he can't get full range of motion from his fucking cause his back gets in the way.
Bodybuilder, isn't he? He's a bodybuilder. That's what he is.
Yeah, he might have if he tucks up his face. I can't see David Haye hurting him to the body because it's just 8 inches of muscle around him. But as soon as he lands on the chin, I think it's going to be game over.
Yeah, I agree. I think Haye will win when he wants to. If he wants to just sort of move around for a bit and dodge punches, I think he will. But if he wants to put him away in a round, I think he probably could do.
Well, you think that obviously Haye would have had to have some sort of monstrous injury for him to struggle with this fight, and that's really saying us how bad that fight is. I mean, I think a lot of us are only watching this fight purely not just for the fact the circus of what Haye is, but we're watching it to see, is Haye really injured? Is Haye just in it for the money? Is he got any sort of semblance of who he was? And that's what we're looking for. Demori's not really the guy that's going to answer those questions, but he's certainly going to be the guy to highlight the flaws if Haye can't fucking demolish this guy as easily as he should do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Here's one final question that you might both enjoy. Pick your favourite upset. If you can have one upset this weekend, what would you have?
Oh, Demori.
I would love to see Haye get chinned. That would be
amazing. Yeah, I'd prefer it if Demori beat him on points. Imagine losing to him on points.
Chinned. I want to see Haye absolutely fucking splattered out.
Okay, Cal, here's it. Okay, going into that a little bit more. First round, Amir Khan, Prescott style, 60 seconds in, Haye is chinned. Or Haye is cruising, Mike Jones, Randall Bailey style, last round, gets chinned. What's your preference?
Oh, the last one, because it'd just be the shock on the 17 people's faces there.
Haye is 11 rounds to 0 up, and he just gets absolutely wiped out.
I want Errol Graham, Julian Jackson style, which is even worse, because Errol was just about to stop him. He was fucking absolutely smashing him to bits, and then wham, and he's fucking out cold. That's what I want.
It's just got so little. There's so little heart in the fight, isn't there? Nobody cares. It's just
I'm not going to watch it. I think I'm going to be in on Saturday night, but I honestly won't watch it.
I'll watch it.
I honestly don't think I do not care.
If I'm in, I'll watch it, but I'm not watching any of the fucking build-up. I'll be just on Twitter and wait till the fight.
Undercard's not on TV either, is it?
No, of course it's not.
He's pulled the last guy off, and he's not giving him the money back to the fans. So
yeah, the Shane Singleton guy. Apparently, he didn't sell any tickets because the undercard lot weren't allocated any tickets. Which
really?
Fast. Yeah.
Seems a bit.
Apparently, about 100, nearly 200 people, like Shane Singleton fans, went over. They bought tickets from the box office. They paid, train tickets, hotel tickets. But now because Shane Singleton's opponent's been, tossed off the fucking card. Hay decided just to take Singleton off the card.
So he can keep that extra couple of grand that he's made off Shane Singleton. Probably 15, 20 grand, won't it?
Yeah,
Like
and
that.
that shows how desperate he is. That he feels the
And
need.
he doesn't have to pay him. So
And obviously these fans, it's not like a fucking, if Joshua were fighting Dillian White and your mate was pulled off the card, you'd still want to go and see the fight, wouldn't you? But it's like Hay against Demori, so these people won't have wanted to go in the first place. They only went to see their mate, and then it's just, nah, you don't get your money back.
Do you have any idea how many it's sold in total?
well, Hay and various other sources, but which I think all root back to what Hay's saying, is saying 14 to 15,000.
No chance.
If they've done that, it's depressing, to be honest. But
Yeah, I mean,
I think, is there any on StubHub? Because
yeah, I looked
StubHub
earlier. There
will
was a
be
few hundred.
panicking. StubHub will be panicking if they've snapped them up, because normally this
yeah,
is
I
the
really
time.
hope the fucking touts cleaned out the arena, with their software or whatever. You had twats buying 400 tickets, trying to flog them for 150, 200 quid, and no one is buying. I would love it if that happened. As karma for Quig Frampton and all the rest.
And there was a few
I
hundred
agree.
on there when I looked earlier. I was just like checking. There's about 300, 400 tickets on StubHub. There's probably others on like other sites.
I think it's. I'm going to say now. I think there's easily less than 10,000 tickets sold. Easily. As in the amount of people who will be there. I think if there's more than 5,000, I'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah, I'm going I'm going 7,000 people there, and I think a few of them might be like Marines, and they'd give 200 tickets to Marines to make them look good.
Yeah, I reckon there'll be a lot of comps there. That's what I'm going to say.
Just back from bombing some kids. Go on, lads, get yourself to this. That'll cheer you up.
Yeah, that'll calm you down for civilians.
Because look at all the fucking celebs Hayes enlisted for his stupid little Twitter campaign, which, to be fair to him, if I was a promoter, that's fucking genius what he's done. But look how many he's got enlisted. He must have loads of like comps being given to all these fucking stupid celebs, all of their mates, all of the people he does like stupid reality TV shows with. You must all be getting a free cheeky ticket. So
Some of the people who have done that have really disappointed me, like Lennox Lewis. Don't lower yourself to that.
Well, Shane Mosley
Will Lennox
as
be
well.
there? I don't know. Maybe he'll be commentating or something. I don't know.
Oh, do you hear who the fucking commentators are?
Is it Richie Woodall and
BJ Flores is one of them.
Fuck's sake.
That I couldn't remember the other two. I just saw BJ Flores and.
Wouldn't mind seeing him fight, eh?
Well, they're best mates, aren't they?
That'd be a win-win.
why are they paying him to come all this way when they could just get?
It's Hayes'
They
mate.
could get they could get the normal Dave guy that like introduces 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps to fucking do it. Oh yeah,
I
the
thought
black
they'd
one's
get-
just hit the white one. He's won. It's all over.
We'll get that guy. We'll get the Stig on. We'll get.
They get like Stephen Fry and Alan Davis to commentate, and they'd just be really confused by everything. That would have been great. Gone the whole hog. But yeah, what? So Flores is the main commentator.
Well, him and 2 others. I forgot their names because as soon as I saw Flores, I was just like, "Fuck's sake."
So will it be the PBC guys then? There'll be 3 of them.
Well, not. I don't think the other 2 are PBC. It's just Flores.
Right.
'Cause Flores is Hayes' mate, and
Yeah, it's not been picked up by any foreign channels, has it? No.
I take it they'll pick up a Demori mate to make it fair and equal on the panel.
Yeah, where's he from? Is he?
Australian, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Australians are getting it on TV. Probably pay-per-view over there, like every fucking thing is.
Beat a legend, become a legend, mate. That's what they'll be shouting when Hay gets chinned. But yeah, I think next week we'll be back again and we'll actually have some, well, not great fights, but proper fights to preview. I think Garcia's next week, isn't he? And they've got an actual PBC show, and I'm not sure if there's any UK fights, but we'll
When's
also.
it starting in England?
Sorry,
When's the proper fighting starting? Back
I think
end of.
there's a Matchroom show at the end of the month. I can't remember exactly.
It's the week after, and it is the Grove show, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, that's with John Ryder on it and Kaminsky.
Oh, that'll be a good fight.
Good fight.
Yeah, that'll be good. I'm looking forward to that. The Gorilla's going to get his shit kicked in.
His bananas squashed.
I was going to say his banana pushed in, and then I thought it sounded odd. Might offend some of them. But also, guys, everyone who's listening, all 12 of you, we'll be having a guest on next week who is a guy called Charles Farrell, who used to be a matchmaker and a manager in boxing, who worked very closely with Don King, has literally been in the game for about, it must be 35, 40 years. He managed, famously managed Mitch Green, who some of you might remember fought Tyson, had a street fight with him back in the 80s, and has also managed various prospects, 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. We will post a link in the description for this show, but he did a podcast last year about essentially the art of fixing fights and how often fights are fixed. And it's absolutely fantastic listening. We're going to get him on next week and ask him lots of questions about his career and sort of what he thinks of the state of boxing at the moment. So hopefully it'll be a bit more serious. But we'll still talk about Sutcliffe and that. Hopefully he's heard of him. Right?
Hopefully Peter's free by then. The campaign's slowly getting underway. And hopefully we'll have a hearing for Sir Sutcliffe next week.
The broadcast pay-per-view next year.
I'm nearest to him if anyone wants me to go and visit him, start sending him letters.
Just go pick him up from the prison, mate, and
get him on a what are they called?
Give him your phone, and while he's in the back of the car, we'll have a chat.
A furlough, isn't it? When they get a day off prison and they get to go out and come back. Yeah. There you go.
He'll want to go to a whorehouse though, only as soon as he's out.
No, he'll be at Hey Demori, be tweeting about it.
Oh, yeah.
Then he'll be going to see his mate Robin Deacon and making sure that he's getting supported for his next fight.
Something new out with supplements, yeah. All right, well, thanks, guys. I think eventually we got there, didn't we?
Yeah.
It seems to be working in the end.
We're going to have a word with a few of the group that left us to die, but we managed to stay in the flames.
We salvaged it quite well, despite.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, the three of us deserve a round of applause for that, I reckon.
Let's all have a nice pat on the back of ourselves. And,
we're back together, and the band is playing on this year. So, Ryan Lee, you're going to get your cunt kicked in, mate.
Yeah, fuck off, you cunt.
Fuck off, you fat bastard.
Cut it now.